Okay, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome to bookmas day 2. I'm so excited, as I always am. But today we're talking about 2026 reading goals, anticipated reads, all of the things, as well as a little recap of my 2025 goals and how I did with that. So I have a little visual aid here, as you can tell, and I just thought that it would be better for discussion's sake if I could see all the things that I'm talking about, and you could also see what I'm talking about as well. So, because there will be multiple times in this video where I'm just talking about a big bunch of books as opposed to one book at a time. So let's jump into it. The first thing, 2025 reading goals. So in 2025, I wanted to numerically read 75 books. I had other goals, to be honest. I have it. Here's my reading journal. Yes, I have it in my reading journal here actually, which I started earlier in the year. And it just truly went nowhere because I couldn't get into it. The craft was making my perfectionist. I feel like I'm not always perfectionist. I could be chill, but there are things that really bring it out in me, and this was one of them. Unfortunately, I just feel like I couldn't enjoy the experience because I just would not want to do it if I knew I couldn't do it perfectly, and to do it perfectly takes so much time. Yeah, it really fell by the wayside. I had so many beautiful plans for them. I also had this cute book bingo. I'm sure I have completed some of them. I might go through this another time. But my 2025 goals were read 75 books. Did not do that. It is currently the 7th of December, I think, and I have read 50. That's fine by me. I'm not upset about it. Read books outside of my comfort zone. I would say yes. I really have not read a lot of romance this year, which I would say is my prime comfort zone. That is what I think usually gravitate toward, and I haven't read that many romances this year. So the next thing is keep up with my reading journal. Anyway, analyze more. I feel like I've definitely done this. Last year, I feel like I was consuming a lot without really considering anything more than how I felt about it. Obviously, I love reading, and I am more than anything a recreational reader. I feel like I just read for fun, and I'm not very critical with reading much, but I really wanted to kind of challenge myself more with my reading, to break things down a little and take more time with it, to really consider what the author was trying to accomplish, what are the themes, and can I appreciate complexity of characters aside from thinking that they were difficult or annoying or being frustrated by them. Can I come to understand them? And I think that is ultimately the whole point of reading and writing, to explore different themes and to be able to develop empathy for different characters from different walks of life and the difficult decisions that some of them have to make that don't relate to you or that you can't experience or have never experienced. So I feel like I definitely challenged myself in that way, and I have found myself being a lot more critical, but not in a bad way, just being able to break down stories more. And it's not something that I just developed as a skill, it's just something that I feel like has been dormant because I studied literature all the way to A level, and it was something that was very important to me and that I really loved doing. And I think after school, just not having to do it anymore, I just didn't do it anymore. So it was fun to kind of start back going through a little bit more in depth of the books that I read. Okay, interesting. I have made my goals already in this slideshow presentation. Did not know that this was one of my goals, which obviously I didn't meet. DNF less. We'll talk about that. And then stay consistent on BookTube. I feel like I have not been consistent, but this year was just so crazy, and that's not an excuse, but it really just, and having a booktube is so interesting because aside from recording content and editing it, you also have to read books. So those are all hobbies. They're different hobbies, but they're interconnected to me. But all of them are very time consuming. And when you don't have time, it feels like you have to choose one. And it really was just reading for me this year, for a lot of the year at least. But I still ended up reading 50 books, that most of which I enjoyed. So I have no qualms with it, but I really do want to maintain this goal going forward. Okay, so that was 2025. This was my 2025 TBR. If you can imagine it, I did even worse on this TBR than I did with my reading goals. It's not funny. But let's talk about it, because I think last year when I made my 2025 TBR, or 25 books to read in 2025 video for Vlogmas, I feel like the way that I compiled that list was not really setting me up for success. I'll say it like that, because I went through a lot of other people's videos who were talking about new releases for 2025 and the book that they were anticipating, and I feel like I never really engaged with myself and my personal TBR that much. I did in a few of them, and there were some that were on my radar that I just don't feel like I care to read much anymore, which is fine. I feel like that's natural. A year ago was a year ago, and a lot has changed. My reading taste has even changed this year, which we will get into. But this TBR, I don't feel is reflective of my personal taste. Now that I'm looking at it retrospectively, this does not reflect my taste. A lot of it doesn't. And some of them were new authors to me, and some of them were, you know, just premises or premises that I thought were interesting, which is fair enough. And I mean, I can't fault myself for what piqued my interest at the time. But what I didn't really engage with is, well, one, the books that were on my TBR physically for like a million years that I still wanted to read. And two, books that were not new releases but have been on my backlog kind of mental TBR for a really long time, or that just represented where I was in my reading journey at the time, what was my favorite book of the year before and what I loved about it, and kind of just peeling back some of the walls or peeling back some of the layers of what I was enjoying in reading at the time, and what are some books similar to that or in similar vein, which is what I did this year. So all of that preface to say, this is how many books from this TBR I read. Yeah, let's excellent. Excellent. 3 out of 25 is a crazy score. I recognize that, but this year will be better. 2026 reading goals. First of all, I'm so excited for 2026. I feel like it's just going to be one of those years, you know, but regardless. Start book club. This is a in-person book club that I really want to start with my cousins. My cousins are literally my best friends on the entire planet. I love them so much. We obviously grew up together, and we're just a gang of girls who are obsessed with each other. So they don't really read that much. They have the capacity to, but they don't. And I think 2 of them do. Not as much as I do, but they do. So I proposed the idea to them, and all of them were interested. So I chose for the first month people we meet on vacation, which the cover that I have is you and me on vacation, which I think is a UK cover, which is interesting. I feel like I usually get US covers where I'm from, but regardless, that's the book that I chose, and I'm going to send them like the little invitation thing later today. So I'm excited for us to read that one and have our first meeting in January. that is going to be really exciting. Read 5 new releases. So in a video that I think was actually for yesterday's video, I was talking about the fact that I don't usually read new releases. I don't like hardcovers, and I also don't feel like it's easily accessible to me. And you know, hype for new releases, unless it's an author that I really, really love, or it's a series that I'm in, it really doesn't bother me, and it's not something that I really care that much for. However, if I really want to stay consistent on BookTube, I feel like it is my duty to at least try to stay a bit ahead on things. There's always something special about reading books that everybody loves and that people read, you know, 10 years ago, and bringing back attention to it. But there's also, you know, so many new releases that are coming out all the time, and that are also really great works of fiction that I want to, you know, just stay a little bit more ahead of. I think I only read 2 new releases this year, which is crazy. Is it crazy? I don't know. I don't know what the bar is for how many new releases you should read in a year, but I definitely don't think 2 is a lot. Read 2 classics. I read absolutely none this year, which is not good. I think I read 1 last year, and I always try to read at least 1 each year, but this year it just wasn't working. I tried to read Pride and Prejudice. I also tried to read Crime and Punishment. I don't know if I just picked them up at the wrong time or what it was, but this was a DNF year. I DNF'd a lot of books this year, which is partially because of how many things were going on, and I think a lot of the books that I DNF'd were more ambitious books, which means that, you know, it's something that I wanted to dedicate a lot of time and energy to, and if I couldn't, then I wouldn't. So that's kind of what happened with some of the classics that I attempted this year, but I do plan on doing better. And I also want to read A Christmas Carol before the end of the year. What? I swear, you open the window 1 time in this house and it's done. Like, all of the flies, all of the mosquitoes, whatever. Anyway, yeah, I do want to read A Christmas Carol soon, which will be 1 classic for the year, but I want to do better next year. Here we go again. DNF less books. Yes, I definitely would like to DNF less books. This year, I don't even think I can count on 2 hands the amount of books that I DNF. DNFing has never been a problem for me, and I think I need to do some like behavioral management with that, because the fact that I know I can't DNF a book if I'm just not in the mood, or because the urge to read something else in this moment is so strong, or because I'm too busy, it's bad. It's not good, and I should not be DNFing books all the time. It's not good. I really want to get better. That is the goal. Oh, I think this is my last one. Yeah, I think this is my last one. Write a book review for every single book that I read. Recently, I started writing book reviews on my laptop. So like 12-year-old style, summary, characters, themes, quotes, how did you feel about it, those sorts of things, setting. That is the type of book review I mean, and I have been having so much fun. It also goes hand in hand with my goal to analyze and just engage more critically with the books that I'm reading. But I have been having a time with that, to be honest. So obviously it's a little bit too late in the year to do that. I have been doing some backlisted books that I've read earlier in the year. The ones that really stood out to me, I'm doing book reviews for them. But going forward, I want to do a book review for every single one. Obviously, all of them don't have to be as detailed or in-depth. And I think that some genres as well as just some books lend themselves more to critique than others. But I want to do a book review as simple as it may be, as ridiculously complex as it may be. I want to do a book review for every book that I read next year, in that same form on my computer. Oh. Oh, okay, this is my last one. Dive into the backlist of 2 authors that I previously enjoyed. So this was inspired by Charlotte McConaughey. She wrote Migrations, which I just feel like is, not to spoil the end of this year's video, but I just feel like that is my standout book of the year. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop talking about it. I thought it was phenomenal, truly. And I read that I think in September, and I still haven't been able to top it or stop thinking about it. So it kind of inspired me to read, obviously, Wild Dog Show, which is a really, really popular one, as well as something else from her, possibly. And then I also just feel like I am kind of an author girl. I could be. So like in terms of Frederick Backman, Emily Henry, I feel like those are 2 authors that I have just been connected to from the very beginning of my reading journey. Post high school literature, when I kind of fell off a little bit, and then I refound my love for reading. But I feel like those 2 are my like favorite authors, because I don't really attach myself to authors that much. I more so read books that I just feel like this premise is interesting or whatever, but I don't necessarily attach myself to authors that much. So what I want to do is kind of go a little bit deeper into the backlist of some people that I have enjoyed reading from before and see how I feel. Okay, so now that we have all of those overarching goals out of the way, this is my 2026 TBR. I approached it differently this year. I haven't looked at any anticipated reads videos, I don't think, except I think I looked at Lottie's video this morning when I had already made this presentation, and it was really just her talking about new releases in 2025. But this list does not have a lot of 2026 new releases on it, because I'm not that much in the know of all of them. I'm kind of building a catalog from things I hear about here and there, but I don't know all of the big releases of next year. And these are just the books that I am looking forward to genuinely within myself. They're either books that I've heard really great reviews of, or the premises sound interesting, or they focus on some type of theme or setting or situation that I feel like I really, really enjoyed this year and previously. So I feel like it is very, very reflective of where I'm at right now, which isn't to say that it will be where I'm at in a year from now, and you know, I could find all of these books so not interesting by the end of next year, which is kind of the beauty of reading and growing as a reader. But this is my list. Yes, I should have changed that slide before I started rambling. Okay, our first topic of discussion, fantasy/dystopian. As I said in yesterday's video, I have been absolutely obsessed with The Hunger Games. I read the first book yesterday. Not yesterday, what is going on with my brain? I read the first book, I think last week, and I really loved it. I've read all of the books before. Okay, I am actually just lying now because that is not true. I've seen all of the movies before, and even up until the prequel, Songbirds and Snakes, I've looked at all of them. I've seen the original trilogy multiple times and loved it every single time. And I just didn't see the point in reading the book now that, you know, I've seen all of them. I know the story, I know the law, I understand the situations, you know. But I was inspired by Eden, who was kind of ranting and raving about the whole series when she read Hamich's story, Sunrise on the Reaping. I want to read that so bad. I love Hamish, and I feel like now is just the perfect time to jump back on the train of freshly reading Hunger Games, and that's what I did. So I have the original trilogy, and I'm really hoping to probably finish that this year, but if not this year, then next year. And the prequel and the sequel. Well, the two prequels, I think it's two prequels. Yeah, Haymitch's Story is also a prequel. So, and the two prequels. Yeah, these are the books that I have left. We have Catching Fire, Mockingjay, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and Sunrise on the Reaping. And what I'm looking forward to is Sunrise on the Reaping. I definitely think this is a guaranteed one that I'll be finishing, as well as the series. This is the only series that I feel like I really committed myself to this year. I'm currently on the 4th book, and that is The Endless War. I'm loving it so much. The politics in this is so fascinating. I am literally eating it up. But the next two books that I have are The Endless War and Twisted Throne. I also think the final book in the series is coming out next year. So whenever it does come out, I will absolutely be picking that up. Hopefully it's in paperback, because all of my other books are in paperback. And then what I'm looking forward to: political intrigue, complex characters, wartime and difficult decisions, and complicated romantic and familial dynamics. I feel like that just describes the world that we're in right now. There is so much political intrigue, but there's also so much drama and family and intimate moments and literally wartime decisions. Like, they are literally in the middle of what feels like an endless war, and there's just this new generation who's coming up who is seeing the holes in the past generation's governance and really trying to make change, but they're also recognizing how difficult it is to make change. And I just feel like it's so fascinating. I'm having such a good time with the series, and I love all of the characters, all of our main characters. But yeah, that is the Bridge Kingdom series. Brad Picker King by Cassandra Clare. I actually have that physically. I planned to read it this year, and I just never ended up reading it because it is so long, and I just feel like it would take me so long to get back into. So I feel like maybe I need to read a summary or watch like a video of the Swordcatcher, which is the first book in the series, to jog my memory. I read that last year around this time, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, so I definitely want to continue the series. What I'm looking forward to: great political intrigue. That is true. That is a book that made me realize that I love politics in fantasy, and which is kind of the reason I was drawn to the Hunger Games again, as well as the Bridge Kingdom series. Underground / criminal world. That is a huge part of this, and I think I would really enjoy that. Complex characters, magic, resurgence, and royalty drama. Yeah. You see, this is what I mean when I say that I feel like I really engaged with the books on my list. I took off so many other books that I had on here because it felt like it was something that I was interested in right now, as opposed to looking deeper and thinking, what about this is something that you enjoy in reading, which is kind of what I'm looking for list was inspired by. So yeah, the next one is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. This one is one that has not been on my radar for a very long time, and one of the newer releases on this list. It was, I think, was it Newly Nova? I think it was Lexi who I heard recommend this book first, and then Books and Lala also recommended it, and I trust both of them. I love both of them and their channels, so I kind of put it on my radar. And the things that I'm looking forward to in this one, I feel like I don't know as much, but from what I could tell, there is morally complex characters, trials, academic setting. I'm not as obsessed with an academic setting as other people are, but I could get into it if it's done really well. High stakes. I think, yeah, the plot of this is grand houses champions competing to be the next emperor, and obviously there are consequences for whoever is the next emperor for everybody else, which I feel like are really high stakes. And slow burn romance. I hear there's a romance in this, so I'm excited about that. Jade City by Fonda Lee. You will see that there's a theme of politics and fantasy here, which is by design. What I'm looking forward to: unique magic system, family dynamics, honor and loyalty as a theme, political intrigue, and rich people drama. I'm guessing this one based on what I've heard, but I could be wrong, which is why I put a question mark. The next one is The Amalfi Curse by Sarah Pennell. I heard this one from Books on Nala. I think she's going to read it in one of her videos, but it's one of the Goodreads Choice nominees for fantasy this year. Is it fantasy or historical fiction? One of them. And I'm interested. I read the summary and I just feel like the setting would be really fun. But also I've realized this year that I just love books set at sea. I don't know why. I'm not obsessed with the sea, nor am I like deathly afraid. So it's not either extremes that I'm pulling at right now. But the way that I loved Migrations, I just feel like I have been searching for books like that so much since then. So that's kind of where some of the books on this list were pulled from. So what I'm looking forward to: beautiful setting, because this is set on the Amalfi Coast, I think. Pretty sure. Mystery / law of a magically cursed land. I feel like that could be really interesting. I haven't read a lot of magical books or like magical lands in a really long time, I feel like, so I could get into that. Sea voyage / being at sea, and forbidden love. I could get behind forbidden love. I haven't read those things in so long, but I know that I love it, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Strange to Dream of by Laini Taylor. This is a Katie's reading recommendation. This is one that she loves and she always raves about. But after reading Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, I feel like this is exactly what the vibe of it is. It's kind of like speculative. From what I could tell, obviously I haven't read the book, so it's really only from what I could tell based on the synopsis and what people say about it. But I just feel like it's kind of this time warpy magical situation, and I feel like I could really enjoy it. I also love YA fantasy if it's done well. So yeah, I feel like I could get into this. What I'm looking forward to: A New World, Lost City, mystery / intrigue, speculative fiction, flair and magic ? Also, I feel like I would really like the main character, just based on the premise and the situation. I feel like I could really enjoy that. Okay, now we're into classics. And I only have 2 on this list because obviously I'm not being too ambitious, because I want to accomplish some goals this year. That would be so lovely if I could do that. So we're not being too ambitious, but the classics that I do have on here are pretty ambitious. Some of the more ambitious of the lot, some would say, but whatever. Crime and Punishment. I have been trying to read this book for 2 years now, and I can't. I started it, DNF'd it. Started it again, started listening to the audiobook, so doing kind of like a tandem read. DNF'd it again. But I'm looking forward to picking it back up because Will Poulter, who was in so many different movies, if you know him, love him. And listening to the audiobook with him narrating it, I was really enjoying it. I just didn't have the time to commit to the story, which is why I kind of put it down. What I'm looking forward to: Will Poulter's voice in the audiobook, moral complexity, commentary on crime, punishment, guilt, justice, etc. The feeling of accomplishment. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to. The Count of Monte Cristo. What I'm looking forward to: the tea. I heard that this is 20% classic, 80% gossip drama tea. Never been interested in this book until I heard that, so yeah. And then the feeling of accomplishment, naturally. General fiction. I listed this topic as general fiction, but this is fiction, just contemporary fiction, period. So all of the different subsets of it could fall into this. I feel like there is some literary fiction, there is some, is there women's fiction in here? I don't think so. Yeah, there is women's fiction in here. And what else is in here? I don't think historical fiction is in here. We'll see. I can't remember. I made this list last night and I can't remember. Okay, yeah. This is more mystery. Wild Dog Show by Charlotte McConaughey. I've already explained this. Don't need to explain it again. What I'm looking forward to. Charlotte McConaughey's immaculate writing. Nature descriptions. Tangible intrigue. Plot twist. Family dynamics and secrets. The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. This one is a Goodreads Choice nominee this year, which is the only reason it's on my radar, but I ordered it on Amazon randomly on Black Friday because I think it was having a sale. So it's high on my radar. I think I might read that kind of soon, early in January maybe. What I'm looking forward to, depiction of fatherhood, incarceration, found family, faith, hope, forgiveness, family, guilt, and morality. This one follows a man who recently had a son, I think, a child, and then he commits a crime and he goes to jail, and we follow his journey in jail and making amends with himself and his family, and also kind of becoming a role model to somebody else in prison. And I just feel like it could be a really interesting story. I feel like I would really enjoy that. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Bessie Smith. This is kind of an older one, and I think the only reason it's on my radar is because I saw like a TikTok maybe of somebody saying that they read this and it was so fantastic and amazing. This one may be one of the shakier ones that I put on this list, to be honest. But if I find a copy, first of all, I feel like the cover is so gorgeous. If I find this cover, I will buy it and read it. So what I'm looking forward to, coming of age and family dynamics. Loved One. This one is really high on my radar by Aisha Muharrar. What I'm looking forward to, discussions on grief/shared grief, romantic love, emotional, and friendship. I just feel like the plot of this one sounds really interesting. I think I would love that. Natural Disaster. This one I'm really interested in by Lisa Owens. This one is about a mother who is about to come off of maternity leave and she just has the absolute worst day of all time. And I think it's just like a commentary on motherhood. So what I'm looking forward to, depiction of motherhood and being a wife, humor, entertaining child characters, hopefully, and everything goes terribly wrong type of day. Love that trope. That is actually, in movies, one of my favorite tropes of all time. I have never read a book like that, I don't think, but I feel like I could really get behind it in a book, especially if it also follows themes of motherhood and stuff like that. They're Going to Love You by Meg Howry. What I'm looking forward to, toxic ballet culture, New York City entertainment industry, emotional, trouble/tortured main character, passion, art and ambition, and coming of age. This one is, I feel like, self-explanatory. This sounds like it would be so juicy, dramatic, but also kind of introspective, hopefully. I'm not sure what I'm expecting from it, but I feel like it could be really good. It reminds me almost of City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert, and that was one of my favorite books of last year. So I feel like I could really love this one. Dusk by Robbie Arnott. This one I have had on my radar for a while because after I finished Migrations, I was looking into books that are similar to Migrations or have similar themes of kind of man versus wild, but not really, where it actually is like an affection for animals and wildlife, but it's also a commentary of man as the entity versus wild. And like, I don't know how to explain it, but I know in my head that this one piqued my interest when I was looking for something like Migrations. And what I'm looking forward to, nature, wildlife, brotherhood, desperation, and morality. Whoa. I didn't realize that was the last book, but apparently it is. And this is the end. So thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited for this new year of reading. And Stella wants to say hi, obviously. I will see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 3. Bye.